Hey there, my name's Andrea Gaughan and I'm a knitwear designer based in Asheville, North Carolina, and this is my little knitting podcast. I usually try to do it every few weeks, but it has been quite a while since my last one, and for that reason I have quite a bit to share with you today, but I'll try not to make this too long. The main reason I got off my regular podcasting schedule was because of Hurricane Helene. If you haven't heard about that, the hurricane caused very devastating effects here in Asheville and the surrounding areas. Thankfully, me and my family were all safe and didn't have any major property damage, but we did have the power and internet out for about a week and then water out for nearly 3 weeks. Thankfully, all those are back now, and the tap water isn't safe to drink yet because they're still undergoing restoration, and I'm not sure when that's gonna be lifted, but we can flush our toilets and showers, so it's a huge improvement. So my day-to-day is more or less getting back to usual at this point, but it is strange because the city is as a whole still devastated. There are a lot of people who lost their homes and vehicles, and there are people who lost their lives in the flooding, and also from downed trees caused a lot of damage. If you are interested and financially able, there are lots of great organizations in the area doing recovery efforts that have been there since the very beginning and still doing it ongoing as folks that were more severely impacted are trying to rebuild or relocate or cover basic needs. But one I personally recommend is Beloved Asheville, and I will link below to their website so you can read about them and donate if you're able to and so choose. They're doing a lot to make sure that they're helping the people most impacted, and I follow them on Instagram, and they're constantly posting about rebuilding homes and relocating people. And I have been, since this pattern came out, which is called Stripetastic, and I'll talk more about, instead of doing a release discount, I've been donating 20% of the proceeds for this pattern to Beloved Asheville, and we've already donated, I think it's just over $300 now, and I'm doing the donations on a weekly basis to make sure that money gets there in a timely manner, is able to be used. So that's going to continue for the last week of October. So if you're interested in this pattern, now's a great time to buy it because $2 of every sale will go directly towards that. But of course, if you're able to, you can also donate directly, and that money is going to be very well used. So let me move on from that pitch. But let me actually start talking about knitting here. So I'm going to talk about this pattern, as I said, that just came out recently, and then I'm going to talk about 2 patterns that are currently in testing and going to be coming out in the near future, as well as sharing with you my current design work in progress. And I'll tell you a bit about how my visit to Rhinebeck for New York Sheep and Wool and the other events that are held around that time was. Let's get into it. So first I want to tell you about Stripetastic Sweater, which just came out recently. That's the sweater I'm wearing right now, and I'll stand up so you can get a bit of a better look at it. Ooh, it's kind of tight here, but I'll try to turn it around so you can see the back. It's the same as the front. So as you can probably see, this is a modified drop shoulder sweater, and it's intended to have a relaxed, oversized fit. I wanted the fit to be like a relaxed, cozy sweatshirt, something that's perfect for throwing on any kind of other layers you might be wearing. And I personally really like day to day, I feel like I wear my more relaxed sweaters the most. So this sample has 10 inches of positive ease on me, which is the recommended ease in the pattern. But since there's a 4-inch grade between sizes, if you don't like it quite so relaxed, you could size down to 6 inches of ease and still get a good fit. And that the sleeves also are very relaxed. So the only time you'd want to worry about doing something like that is if there's oversized body and fitted sleeves. If you go down a size to get the ease you want in the body, the sleeves might be really tight. So I'd still check, that the bicep works for you, but if you want a closer fitting one, the sleeves of a size down of your normal size should still be plenty big because they're proportionally oversized. So I just like to mention that because I know people, of course, have different fit preferences for what they like best. But I'm really happy with this. This is like about as oversized as I would go with a sweater. But I wore this all day the Saturday of New York Sheep and Wool. It was perfect and super cozy, and I've probably mentioned this before, but I tend not to wear my samples very much. I'll put them on to check the fit, but I don't wear them until the release happens, mostly just because I'm worried I'm gonna like catch it on something or get a stain on it. So I like to make sure that it's kept in pretty pristine condition until the release happens, and then after that I start actually being able to wear it. So it's very exciting at Rhinebeck to have my first full day wearing it, and then I've been wearing it since. Definitely going to be one of the things I wear most this winter. So this is worked in DK weight. I worked my sample in Sonder Yarn Co's Sunday Morning DK. This is not a color I used in my sample, but is used in a second sample I'm working up, which I guess is a second version. I don't know if it really counts as a sample if it wasn't out for the release. But so this stripe scheme is my original idea I had for the design, but then once I was writing it up, and also when I was discussing with Melissa of Sonder Yarn Co. about the release, we're saying that it could be really worked in any striping pattern at all, and not just the bands of stripes across the chest, but all over stripes. And I wish I could have worked a million samples to show all the different possibilities, but I wanted to be able to show the variety. So I worked different swatches, which I will show to you here. So I did basic thin stripes, and I did each striping scheme I did in 2 different color schemes. So we have thin stripes with a darker stripes on a light background and lighter stripes on a dark background. And then I did thin stripes with 2 colors in those thin stripes, and variations of this have been popping up a lot different places and are super cute. A lot of testers did variations on these kinds of stripes, either exactly like this or making the whole thing wider. For my swatches, I tried not to make any stripe sequence that's too long because you can't really see in the swatch. But again, 2 different colors to just start showing some different possibilities there. And then, so this is some wider stripes. This is actually the one I'm doing for my second sample for JMIS. And here, I feel like this one especially shows how different the different color choices can make that look. So just the same thing basically of 3 color stripes in these, but that making this center stripe wider. And then last I did some random color order, random stripe width stripes. So this one is showing just 3 colors, which I actually, I think this is my favorite of all the swatches. I would definitely wear a sweater like this, which I kind of didn't expect before swatching it how much I would like that. And this one has 6 different colors. Of course, you could do as many as a few colors, but I kind of want to show the difference. You can kind of keep it, if doing scrappy, differing length, differing order stripes is more out of your comfort zone, you can stay with fewer colors to kind of keep it a bit more cohesive. And then if you want to go all in on the crazy scrappy stripe look, you can add as many different colors as you like. So the pattern includes the specific information you need to make this rainbow stripe version or all over stripes in any of those sequences. But more than that, my goal is just to give extra guidance and inspiration for working any kind of stripes on the base sweater, which is as I said, drop shoulder sweater, but it is modified drop shoulder sweater, so it has shoulder shaping, and then the larger sizes have armhole shaping, so that even though it's a relaxed fit, it's a good fit, and yeah. So as I said, 20% of the proceeds of that pattern are being donated throughout the end of the month. I'm going to link below to the pattern pages, both on Ravelry and my website, in case you're interested in taking a look at that pattern, which is out now. And let me move on now to tell you about some of my upcoming releases. So I think this sweater was a work in progress last time I recorded, but I'm not certain. But Belmullet Pullover is finished and in testing now, and I wore this sweater to Rhinebeck, so in addition to showing you a sample here, I will edit in a photo of me wearing it in a second. Let me get you some closer ups of the different cable textures here. And this is the sleeve, which matches the center of the front. Okay, here's a picture of me wearing it. So this is a top-down Aran weight cabled sweater, and it is named Belmullet after a town in the area of Ireland that my grandfather and grandmother were born in. They both immigrated to the United States. Sometimes I get confused when you use immigrated and when you use emigrated, but I'm pretty sure you use immigrated in that sentence. Okay, so they came to the United States in their early 20s, which now that I am 30 is so crazy to imagine that, to just like uproot my life and move to a foreign country in your early 20s. I think when I was a kid I was like, oh, they were adults, but now I'm like, that's really young. That's where I've gotten the name of the sweater, and I was inspired by traditional Irish knits in general, and specifically that my grandmother is the person who first taught me to knit. She did a lot of knitting and crocheting, and she worked a lot of like blankets and shawls, but a lot of my other relatives did knit sweaters more. I have a baby sweater that my mom gave me that I think it was my grandmother's sister that made. But I know when I was little, my siblings were little, we did have some of our Irish relatives that knit us cute little quick cabled sweaters. So I just love how cables look, but I really wanted to tap a little bit into the extra connection I have to Irish knits and cabled sweaters and the tradition between those two that has existed. I got some hair on this when I wore it. Oh, if you've been following along, you can see my hair has been growing quite a bit as I've been growing it out, and I'm not used to like the having hair on things. So I wanted to go with a very classic Aran sweater type of look, but with a bold cable on the side. So this motif is worked over 24 rounds, but if you are used to working cables, I found that it didn't take me long at all before I didn't need to look at the chart anymore, which I really like. I like being able to take my knitting and not be constantly referencing the lines of the chart. But I think, you know, it's always hard to say how beginner friendly a specific design is because it depends what your specific experience is and how adventurous of a knitter you are. But I would say for an all over cabled sweater, this is on the beginner friendly side. All of the different parts are fully charted out. The shaping is charted. I think there's actually a small exception. So when you do this back shoulder shaping, it's charted out until the cables are finished. And then you don't have the entire chart for shaping in the double moss stitch on the side. You can see that. So there's a section of double moss stitch, so you kind of get in the rhythm of how to shape in that. But the shaping that's actually done during the cable sections is all charted out. And it is worked top down, which I know is a lot of people's preference. So that is a plus. And I have a second sample I am working on that I will show you. I am just about to start the ribbing on this one. Oh, I love this color. I almost wish it was for me. So this is for my brother, and it is worked in the same yarn, but a different color. And the yarn I've used for both is Kelbourne Woolens Lucky Tweed. And you can extra see in this color how beautiful all those little tweedy flecks are. They're extra subtle in the cream color I used, but they're beautiful in all the colorways. So this blue is called Ocean, and this design is my first one that has two entirely different fits, and that is to continue working on making my designs as size inclusive as possible. So they've always been size inclusive, as in they cover from a 30-inch to 66-inch body, bust / chest circumference. But most knitting patterns are graded on a women's sizing chart. So if you have a more average male type body, a lot of times people do have to make modifications. So in a sweater like Stripetastic, I added the options of short and tall. So there are different sleeve lengths and body lengths, which of course everyone can always modify those, but I gave the exact shaping for 2 different sleeve lengths, and then the exact yardage you would need for whichever of those choices you made. But I'm moving towards having 2 completely different fits, and I'm just calling them Fit 1 and Fit 2 so that they're as gender inclusive as possible. But where they come from is Fit 1 is graded on a women's sizing chart, and Fit 2 is graded on a men's sizing chart. And I could do a whole video about this, but not to get too into the nitty gritty. But I think part of the reason more people don't do that is it's very not straightforward to find a good comparable women and men's sizing chart to even start from. A lot of resources only have women's, or if they have women's and men's, the measurements don't line up as well, or they're not measured in the same way. Anyway, if people are interested in that, I could do a whole video about how I ended up getting the size charts I had, but I've done a lot of back and forth with my tech editor. So the 2 size charts both have 10 sizes, and they are, so size A in both sizes is going to have the same body circumference, but then the rest of the measurements will vary, with on average the size 1 fit having shorter sleeves, shorter body, shorter armhole depth, and less wide shoulders. And then of course the opposite, longer sleeves, longer body, deeper armhole depth, broader shoulders for the Fit 2. So all that is to say, this is a size B Fit 1 that I made for myself, and this is a size B Fit 2 that I'm making for my brother. Both of these don't have any armhole shaping, so the front width is actually just the entire width. So that doesn't specifically change in these sizes, but for the larger sizes, when there is armhole shaping, the Fit 1 has more intense armhole shaping than Fit 2 does. But it does have, I'm pretty sure, deeper armhole depth, but I think they're pretty close, and then it has notably longer body length and notably longer sleeves and a larger bicep circumference for those sleeves. So I'm very excited for when I finish this and my brother comes into town and we can wear them together, and I can actually get the information about how it fits him. This is my first time knitting a sweater for him, so I think he's excited and I'm excited to see how it fits, and I hope it's good, because I'm sure, as you know, if you knit things for other people, I feel like if I knit something for myself and I don't love the fit, I'm like, I can just re-knit it, or but it seems different if he doesn't like it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm re-knitting it, or I don't know if he'll tell me his exact thoughts, but we'll see. It's a bit more nerve-wracking knitting it for someone else, but I measured all his measurements and they look good, aligning with Fit 2 size B, which is actually wild because he's much taller than me, and we have the same bust / chest circumference. But the difference of he's broader but does not have breasts, and I'm smaller but do have breasts. I guess we both have a 34-inch circumference there. So He's gonna be coming in a couple weeks, so maybe by the next time I am recording, I will have photos of the two of us and feedback about how that ended up fitting him. But this sweater is set to be released in the very beginning of December. I think I wrote it down. Yeah, Friday, December 6th is when the sweater is going to be released, so it's really not all that far away. And I'm in early planning stages, but I am going to have a knit along for this, which I'm very excited about. It seems like there's been a good amount of interest, and I feel like leading up to the holidays, a thick, cable, cozy, tweedy sweater seems really seasonally appropriate. So if you are interested in that, stay tuned. Definitely, if you're not already, sign up for my newsletter, and you'll get all the info about that as soon as I have it, basically. But I'll also be sharing more about that on my podcast as we get details sorted. And I'm using the royal we. I'm mostly there. I get details sorted, but I am communicating with Kelbourne Woolens, and they might be putting up a prize and that kind of stuff. So I'll keep you updated. And then I did want to take a little moment here to ask you what you have liked in knit-alongs and what makes a knit-along great to you, whether you participated in one or a whole bunch, or even if you haven't participated in one before, maybe what's kept you from participating, what would make you want to participate. Because I have now ran, I think I've run 2 knit-alongs and someone else ran a knit-along of my pattern that I wasn't involved in. But I've done a couple, and I've been so happy to see people participating and making the designs and chatting with each other and sharing their progress. But I have felt like I want to that there's room for improvement, and I want to figure out what I can do to make the experience fun and engaging for people, whether that's more prizes, more check-ins, more chats, doing some lives, I don't know, anything. So let me know any thoughts you have about that. Let me know in the comments, and I would really appreciate any feedback you have at all. And let me know specifically, of course, if you're interested in this knit along. It's always good to gauge interest. Yeah, so stay tuned for more info, and let me move on to my next design that has a release coming up. Okay, so this design I don't even think I had started when I did my last podcast. I'm not exactly sure, but it is now completed, and actually the test has just begun. The test technically starts tomorrow, but I started accepting testers and sharing the pattern with them this morning. You may have seen the test call on Instagram or my email, but here it is. This is called South Slope Vest, and it is my very first vest pattern, and also the first vest I've ever knit. Let me get you a close-up here. So this whole pattern, this whole vest is knit in these little micro stripes that are 1x1 stripes, and the pattern, of course, walks you through exactly how to do that. And if you know anything about 1x1 stripes, you might know about helical knitting, which is what's used in the round, and that makes it so that you never have to cut the yarns when you're switching between them, and doesn't give you extra ends to weave in. And then there is a method that is just called 1x1 stripes knit flat. I don't know a more catchy name like helical knitting for it, that is used in the front and back. And that is, if you're not familiar with it, basically like helical knitting, but the way it's done is quite different. But it's the same concept of once you work one color, you go back and repeat the same thing in the next color. So what you end up doing is you work right side row in main color, right side row in contrast color, and then wrong side row in main color, wrong side row in contrast colors, and the two colors both go across and then both come back and then both go across and both come back, so that you never have to cut it. It's not, neither of these are, of course, like most things in knitting, things I invented, but the pattern walks you through exactly how to do them. So if you're not familiar with those techniques, which I think a lot of people aren't, you can see exactly how to apply them. And then, of course, if you're knitting a regular pattern with the flat technique, you would have to yourself convert that second right side row. The pattern would have written it as a wrong side row, so you have to work it backwards. Anyway, I don't know if you can visualize that, but so you'd have to convert a wrong side row to be knit on the right side, and so you'd have to reverse the instructions and change all the purl type stitches to knit type stitches or in reverse. So anyway, pattern does all that for you, and then you end up with these adorable little micro stripes, and I am so happy with this. I really wanted a really basic vest pattern. Honestly, I just wanted a really plain vest, but I know there's a lot of plain vest patterns already out there, and I didn't want to put one more that was exactly the same, so I did the little twist of the stripes. And I love how with knitting, a stripe is actually a series of V's, so it's really like each of the lines is a little tiny squiggle or zigzag, and it gives it a lot more textured look than standard stripes. So let me tell you some more details of this pattern. It is knit up in Gilliatt, I believe is how I say it, from Rerum Natura. I just realized the yarn ball doesn't actually say Rerum Natura anywhere on it. I don't think. But the price tag does. Anyway, got distracted there. So this is the yarn in a different color. And I have a different color because, as I'm too guilty of doing, I'm like, oh, I would love it in this other color combination too. So I'm guilty of making a second sample, even though I tell myself I shouldn't do that. But if you've been following my work at all, you know I love mustard, golden yellow. And so I'm going to do this cream and golden yellow version. And I think I'm gonna do the yellow as the edges. But maybe I'm not sure. I might kind of wait until I've been knitting it and see if maybe I want the white for the ribbon. So this is knit, and that's a worsted weight yarn. So of course any other worsted weight yarn that meets gauge would be an appropriate substitute. And it has shoulder shaping in the back, which is the very first thing that is worked with short rows. And this is the only part of the pattern where you do work those short rows in regular back and forth motion. So you do have to cut the yarn each round. I think there's only like 12 short rows or something. So you get that out of the way right at the beginning, and then you go into those methods for the back, and then picking up for the front and then the body, to be able to get the nice two colors in without too many extra ends to weave in. So this, like I said, is beginning testing already, and that release is going to be in early January, which is great. The tests kind of got pushed back a lot with first the hurricane, and then it became time for my Rhinebeck trip, so I pushed it back to after that. But since a vest does not have sleeves and it's worsted weight, I'm still able to have the release kind of be on my schedule because the test isn't as long as a regular test. I think I made the test 10 weeks long, where for a sweater with sleeves it'll usually be like 12 or 14. So it worked fine. That got pushed back about 4 weeks from my initial intent of when I wanted that test call to come out. Okay, and then I'm going to next share with you 2 works in progress I have. Okay, I know I've already been chatting for quite a bit. Like I said, there's a lot I had to catch up on. I don't want to stay here too much longer, so I'll do a quicker overview. First WIP I have is about half done, maybe 2/3 the way done, Essential Beanie, which is a pattern I released last year. That's just a basic ribbed beanie, but it is written for all yarn weights, and the idea is that It's perfect for any skein of yarn that you want to knit with. It has the instructions for 6 different yarn weights. So this is worsted weight piece fleece, and I have little clips in my hair, so I don't want to bother too much, but I'm so excited with how it's turning out. I don't usually work in purple, but I saw this skein and I was very enthused with it. It has all these gorgeous heathery shades in it, and it's really soft and fluffy. Here's the label. So I am very excited to get this finished up soon and have it kind of be my main hat of the winter. I've knit a lot of these already, but I think it'll be fun to have it in a new color. And then I kind of end up getting in a routine of I'll wear the same one for months on end and then go to another hat and wear that one for months on end. So I have a feeling this will be my start of winter hat for this year. And then my second work in progress I have is a new design that is going to come out in the early spring. So it is another drop shoulder sweater. I'm on a drop shoulder sweater kick if you can't tell, but I've been switching it up with stripes, a textured sweater I did, the cable sweater, what else? Oh yeah, and then so now, anyway, this is a colorwork sweater, but again, drop shoulder, but it's really the fit of sweater that I end up liking and wearing the most, so I'm not gonna do only drop shoulder sweaters forever, but I just keep being like, it's just what I really like to wear and is comfortable. So this is worked in fingering weight yarn with that all over colorwork motif of these sweet little flowers. And this version is worked with 2 different contrast colors, a like magenta and then an orange. But you could knit the motif all in one color, or you could do stripes of tons of different colors. Here's my block swatch so you can see what it looks like with a bit better tension after the stitches are relaxed. I honestly feel like I don't have the very best colorwork tension in the world, which is a bit of a shame because I'm of course the one making the sample, so it's only going to be as nice as my colorwork tension. But I've done colorwork designs before and I've knit colorwork, but I feel like I only do it a few times a year, and I maybe have just never, I love the process but have never gotten like 100% confident in that I'm tensioning my floats in the best way. I think they look very nice. They look neat. But I think if anything, they're a bit tight, and I get worried about if I let them be looser that then stitches start distorting. So anyway, I gotta look into that. If you have any tips for me, let me know. But yeah, at least I will have a whole fingering weight colorwork sweater practice. But I was happy enough with how the swatch turned out. So I think it will be plenty good enough for the sample, but not up to my usual perfectionist standards, I guess. So let me show you the yarn for this. I have one of the main color skeins I didn't kick up yet. This is Tones Light from Brooklyn Tweed, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. It's woolen spun and very light and fluffy feeling, very full of air. And it's really nice for color work. Here, let's see. Oh, Columbia wool. Oh my gosh, I'm missing it. So it's Columbia wool, and like all of Brooklyn Tweed's yarns, it's American sourced, spun, dyed, distributed. That's their whole thing, which I love, and I've used several of their bases before, but this is my first time working with this one. They have colorways that are dyed on this undyed shade, which is the lighter one. There's, okay, this is called the Overtone. I kind of got it messed up. So there's overtones that are dyed on this light gray, and then they have a darker gray. Oh, I don't know why I'm not sharing you this. I actually got a color card. So let's see. Is that focusing okay? So that light gray is the one that I'm using as my main color, but that darker gray is another undyed gray, and then every color that's available is available dyed on the light base and the dark base. So I am working my two contrast colors in this, which ones? This Persimmon on the dark gray, and this Hollyhock on the dark gray. But it makes all the colors coordinate together extra well, I feel like, and then to get more high contrast versions as I did. Let me just hang this back up. You can use the light base and darker overtones. Anyway, I'm getting way too into that, so I'll be talking plenty more about this design as I have more worked up in future podcasts. And then, of course, since I'm working on that now, it means it won't be all that long until there's a test call. I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now, there'll be a test call out for that design. So if you are interested in ever testing for me, sign up for my newsletter. I have that linked in the description. That's always, as soon as a test call is out, I send out a email, so that makes sure you never miss a test call. And then this design, oh, I didn't even say that about the vest. So the vest and this design are again going to have the fit 1, fit 2 options, and my plan is for every pattern moving forward to have that set of 2 options. And I want to be sure to have that despite whether it's like a more feminine pattern, like, I don't know. Some might say flowers are feminine, even though, of course, I mean, maybe not of course, but I think that's silly because flowers are beautiful and every human should be able to love flowers. But regardless of what motif or kind of style it has, I'm going to do the fit 1 and fit 2. So there's that full range of options in all of my designs moving forward. So let's see. I'm going to share one little last thing with you, which is a bit of the yarn I picked up on my Rhinebeck trip. Okay, last thing I want to share with you. I don't usually do like hauls or acquisition because I kind of just don't like to do. I love acquiring yarn, as lots of us do, but I just don't want to do any more glorification of consumption than is necessary. I don't know. I think that kind of stuff can kind of go in that direction sometimes, but I do want to share just a bit of the yarn I got at Rhinebeck and the surrounding events that I'm really excited on working with. And first off, I'm going to show 4 skeins of fiber I got from North Bay Fiber, who I have not worked with their yarn before, but they're a dyer based in, I want to say Michigan? Yeah, Michigan, that uses all American wool. And what I think is really cool is that every single one of their bases is from a single breed. So they're breed specific, and that allows each yarn to have really unique qualities. And then it also plays a large role in conserving and raising interest in different specific yarn breeds. So 2 of them are Targhee Polypay. No idea how to say that. So there is a Sport and DK weight base in that same type of wool that I got. And then there is a Aran weight Romney wool, which this is the one I'm most excited about. Oh my god, it's so pretty. It's got like a nice bit of sheen to it, which I guess is a Romney specific thing. I'm trying to learn more about what different types of wool are best for and their different properties. Oh, but it just like glows. It's so pretty. And of course, I love all the colors she's dyed on these bases as well. And then I got a sport weight yarn that is Cormo. So let's see that. Ooh, 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 ooh. There we go. So I'm trying to educate myself more about what yarns, what types of wool are best for what types of stitch patterns and types of garments. And I will keep sharing that with you as I learn it. And then I want to try to remember when I'm sharing my podcast if I can talk about why I chose a specific yarn for a project. So especially with those bases, I kind of want to extra think about what the qualities of that wool would be particularly well suited for. And then what I do when I'm shopping yarn a lot of times is I'll just get one skein of a base in a color I like, and then I like to have like a library of different yarns available so I can swatch design ideas. And then only when I'm sure about a specific base for a specific design idea do I try to acquire a sweater quantity. Okay, next I want to show you some yarn I got from Green Mountain Spinnery. My camera is dying, so we're going to wrap this up as fast as we can here. But these bases are all so pretty. This one is cotton and wool, and the cotton is those little Tweedies. This is a beautiful marled worsted weight wool, and then this is a alpaca and wool blend. And Green Mountain Spinnery is a worker-owned co-op in Vermont, and I'm especially interested in trying to use their bases and work with them and support them because I think worker-owned co-ops are like the coolest thing that people can do. I try to think a lot about how I'm trying to operate my business as a self-employed person as ethically as I can within capitalism, and I think worker-owned cooperatives are one of the best ways someone could try to do the same with a larger business. So very cool. These are all milled there. And again, 3 bases for swatching in. And the last yarn I want to show you is like the last thing I expected to pick up, which is this super fluffy new base from the Wandering Flock. And it is baby circuit that is put into a tube of cotton, and it is so light and fluffy. And I love how the color it's kind of already looks like you held a strand of the purple mohair with a lighter base. Like it has that kind of marled effect already going on. So I have a couple schemes of what I might want to do with this, but that is kind of out of my normal range of what I'm drawn to. But once I picked it up, I was like, I have to get this. So my battery's dying, so I'm gonna go. I've chatted with you quite a while. Thank you so much for getting all the way to the end of this video. Again, let me know in the comments anything you like in particular about knit-alongs, and I'll be reading all that and using that information to try to help plan my upcoming knit-along. And I will be talking to you again in a couple weeks with some new updates. Thank you. Bye.